It's a beautiful day at the Red Pony in Continual Soiree. My name is Droolbatz, and today we are going to be discussing the 2018 horror movie Haunting on Fraternity Row. We're going to be discussing this movie based on its premise, its production value and artistic choices, and finally, how it compares or contrasts to other films of the genre. I hope you enjoy. It's the end of the school year, and a fraternity at some college, I don't know which one, is getting ready for their big end of the year blowout. It is called, whatever their fraternity name is, luau, and every year they host one, and this year they are determined for it to be the biggest, craziest luau they have ever had. They do not know what they are getting into, though. Several of them are seniors, so they want to make memories with their last hurrah, and they get some of the pledges to walk around and film everything that they're doing. As they are getting ready for this party, some of the pledges are supposed to carry a big keg of beer up from the basement where it's been stored, but they are just freshmen, and that keg of beer is heavy, and they drop it, and it falls down the stairs and smashes a hole in the basement wall. The senior members are super mad that these kids have damaged their house, but then they realize that behind the hole in the wall there is a tunnel in their house, and they of course jump in and follow it, and they find a really, really weird room with all sorts of different light fixtures all around, mounted into the ceiling, on the wall, set loosely on boxes. There's just lights everywhere. One of the fraternity boys finds this upside down like goblet thing with some weird writing on it, and I think the writing is Latin, but he goes, obviously this is Chinese, and he picks it up and goes, I'm gonna drink like a king tonight, and they run out, and they're like, freshmen, you pledge, don't let anyone down here, we'll sort this out later. As the party gets underway, there is dancing, there is booze, there are girls, there is dressing up in a bunny suit, there is keg standing, there is all sorts of ridiculous stuff, and as the craziness gets underway and things get really, really crazy, the boy who had the goblet starts trying to look up the Chinese on the bottom of the cup, and he realizes it's a warning. What could it possibly be warning him from? Well, if you think this party is crazy now, it's about to get crazier. Haunting on Fraternity Row is approximately 100 minutes. I think it's that long. Anyway, it's a reasonable length. The movie does not have too much dead space, but there are a couple of scenes where I think they could have cut down a little bit. This movie, weirdly enough, utilizes montages in an extreme way. It is, the setting is a party, so of course you have to have a party montage, people drinking, people dancing, girls getting all crazy, boys getting all crazy, some guy in a bunny suit, things like that. However, this movie had 2 or 3 montages, which I thought was a little odd. They were fun montages, but it was definitely like, you could have done this with 1. That said, this movie was very immersive. It's set in a fraternity house, and because you are seeing this movie through the camera that the pledges are holding, it doesn't feel like a production. It feels like you're very in the moment. This is a found footage type film, and it was a good choice in that it really puts you in the movie. The set was very detailed, and you got a very good feel for the layout of the house. It was very detailed. You got to see a lot of the party supplies. You got to see a lot of the details in the different fraternity members' bedrooms and things like that. Because you see the movie before the party and then during the party, you kind of get to see how it evolves, what the house looks like normally versus what it's made into, and it made for a really immersive experience. It was just really excellent to see that the set was so well utilized. So right off the bat, when we are seeing the frat boys in their natural setting, there's a shirtless guy, there's a guy in a bunny suit, and there's a guy filming them. I don't know how accurate that is to real life. Right away you get the sense that they're kind of like a jokey group and they're not really there for serious things. So that kind of sets the pace for the movie, that these guys have to evolve pretty quickly. Now, a lot of movies about college-age kids being pals or whatever have kind of clunky writing. This movie was not quite as bad. There were a couple of awkward moments where I was like, do boys really, really act like that? But for the most part, I think this movie did a really good job of making the characters kind of deep. They tried to explain the motivations and the attitudes of these boys and give them a little bit of depth without really apologizing for or making excuses for their stupid behavior. So in that way, I liked how they handled these characters, and I did think that was a little unique. So that said, these boys are big old dummies for the most part, very irresponsible and just doing crazy nonsense. These scares in this movie kind of rely on these boys not paying attention at first, and the scares kind of slowly creep up in the quiet moments of the party, like in a bathroom no one's using, before they finally make their way out to where people are noticing what's going on. The scares were fairly well spaced throughout the movie, but unfortunately there were several jump scares that were very jumpy, scary scares. So in that way, it kind of cheapened the storytelling experience for me. I don't like jump scares. I think if you're scaring someone with a jump scare, it's kind of a cop-out. Like, anyone's gonna be scared if you just, do that, startling. The other thing that kind of cheapened it too was the special effects were very, very cheesy. As people start turning up dead at the party, as people start turning up dead, they have kind of like a signature, the killer's signature look, which is like their eyes are, I guess, like gouged out, I don't know, and there's like blood running down. So it's kind of scary, but it's very distinctive. That was okay, but there's a lot of weird and cheesy CGI that just didn't look good at all. And I think the concept was kind of interesting, but they really, really cheapened it with the cheesy, bad CGI, and it really de-elevated the whole film. So this movie is a very mature movie. Of course, it's a frat party setting, so there's a lot of drinking, there's drug use. It's a luau, so there's lots of scantily clad people, shimmying really nastily. There is a lot of sex and sexual references. There's a lot of nudity. There's a lot of swearing, and there's a lot of violence. So if you're going to be watching a movie with a younger horror movie fan, maybe not this one. Maybe save this for your more mature friends. It's definitely rated R, so like be aware of that. A lot of horror movies are like rated R, and I don't know that they necessarily earn the rating. This one definitely did in a lot of obvious ways. Altogether, this movie's production value was decent, but nothing out of the ordinary. Now I'm going to be discussing how this film stands apart from or blends into other films of the genre. It's possible that I will be spoiling parts of this movie. I'm really going to try not to. So if you don't want any spoilers, please take this as your cue to leave now. It was lovely having you. If you like horror movie reviews, I do that here, so consider subscribing. It was lovely having you. The guy with the goblet that he dug out of the weird room with all the light fixtures in it has been Googling this cup, and it's got some kind of a warning on it. He starts looking up the address of their fraternity house and realized that before it was a frat house, many, many years ago, I think it's a pretty old house, some guy lived there who committed a bunch of murders and several other major things like that. They are, of course, shocked. These guys have lived there for 4 years without any kind of incident and are like, what the heck is going on? They go downstairs to kind of talk to some of their other frat bros about it, and people start going missing and dying, and it turns into a total fiasco. I'm not gonna say more if I can possibly help it. So this movie basically had a lot of elements that we've seen in other horror movies, but I don't think it really brought anything super new to the table. If you've ever seen the Amityville Horror, this movie has a lot in common with that. The notion of a house having a lot of history with, either violence or like demonic energy or something affecting the people who currently live there is not a new one. It's been done before. I think the most obvious example I can think of is the Amityville Horror. They move into this house and there's a lot of weird energy. The husband starts waking up at like 3:15 every morning, and when he starts to renovate the basement, he discovers this hidden room in the basement where a lot of like monstrosities occurred, and basically the scary spirit of someone who lived there before kind of possesses him to try to like kill his family, and the person before him also killed the family, and so on and so forth. This movie very much took a note from that. There's a hidden room, and when they go in there and disrupt some stuff, it kind of lets the spirit out, and it starts wreaking havoc in a way that's very similar to something that happened in the past in that house. There's a lot of other movies where this happens, of course. I think One kind of cool movie is called Devil's Candy, and several people actually recommended that to me, and I was like, well, should I watch it? I did. It's actually really good, and I might review it maybe in the future if people are interested. So like I said, that's not a new concept. This is a found footage type movie. Those tend to all be kind of the same, I feel like. This movie, I think, kind of avoided some of the awkward pitfalls that a lot of found footage movies tend to have, in that instead of having someone who be like, I just got a new camera and I'm just gonna film everyone, he, which is so annoying, and if someone did that in real life, you just take their camera away, especially in a lot of movies where it's like a kid got a camera, like the parent would just take it away. This one, they kind of avoided a lot of that awkwardness by having the camera be passed around between the pledges, so you see different perspectives. It kind of avoids the, you know, the one like awkward narrator running around. In As Above, So Below, which is my favorite found footage movie, these people are going down to the catacombs beneath France looking for the Philosopher's Stone, and it's, as they descend, you start to see weird crap going on. I kind of got that vibe at first because the notion of light and dark and how it plays into what's going on is very important, and, you know, they descend into the basement several times and they go up and down, and kind of the ascent and descent is a little bit important in this movie. The difference is that As Above, So Below is very much like a riddle and puzzle. This one, it didn't end up having a lot of intellectual elements at all. It's just very much a gratuitous event, I guess you could say. A lot of times found footage movies have a tendency to have dead space, and this movie didn't, but at the same time it had montages, like several of them, like 3 or 4 I think, so it didn't really fit completely into the found footage category. If they'd cut out even just 2 of the montages, the movie would have been a little bit shorter, and I feel like they wouldn't have been, you know, struggling to fill the time, if that makes sense. The other thing too is the notion of having a bunch of crazy supernatural stuff go wrong at a party. I think they might have thought they were being unique in that way, but again, that's not. This happens to be a frat party, but if you watch any kind of movie with, you know, teenage witches, crap always goes down at their homecoming or at their prom. Carrie, anyone? Also, like the Witch Files. I mean, it's very common for crazy crap to go down at parties. This one happens to be a fraternity party, but again, I mean, I've seen a couple of other movies about frat boys and scary ghosts and stuff, so even in that way, it's not particularly unique, even though they tried to make it unique with the setting that they chose. This movie takes elements from several different genres, like found footage, and several different storytelling elements, like the haunted house that we see in Amityville Horror, and kind of combines them in a way that's not particularly new or unique. If I had to rate this movie, I would give it a 2 out of 5 stars. That's not being very kind, but it's how I feel. The premise was just not unique. It combines a bunch of elements we've all seen before and mashes it together in a way that doesn't say anything new and doesn't offer a new experience at all. And it was just overly gratuitous, I think, for what they were aiming for. This is supposed to be a TV movie, and there's no way that they would play this on TV with the amount of nudity. I mean, there's a scene where literally, like, the opening scene is them throwing dildos at each other. I mean, there's no way that they would show this on TV, and obviously it didn't go to theaters, so I'm wondering who their target audience was for. It was just overly gratuitous in a way that I think will not be successful for this movie. But who knows, I ended up watching it, and I don't have TV, so there you go. I guess just, like, let me know any thoughts that you have. I'd love to hear them all. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you enjoyed this review and that it was helpful to you, and I don't know, I hope you have a great day. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. I just do this for fun, but it's always fun to do it with more people. So anyway, sorry, I'm rambling. Anyway, thank you so much. I hope that everything is good for you, and have a great week. Bye.